religion and philosophy kind of sphere of things. And so I reached out to him. About a month ago, or actually it's been a couple months. Time flies, but I got no response at first, and then I got follow up, and I got basically a response saying he's unavailable. So I was like, oh, darn it. But I think if we rally enough people behind this, I can get Alex O'Connor on this YouTube channel. He was a huge influence as to why I decided to do this, to do my channel. And I just want him on because I think it'd be so interesting. So every Tuesday, we're going to be doing live watch parties of his content and doing a unique comment on everything. We might get kind of crazy. I'll probably do little polls here and there for the audience so you guys can be a part of this process. And in about a year, I'm going to be posting a video that says, I watched every single Alex O'Connor video on the internet. It's going to be pretty stinking wild. Welcome everybody. I'm just updating you guys about a weekly live stream that I'm going to be doing, watching every single Alex O'Connor video. So it's going to be pretty wild to get into that. That's going to be on Tuesday nights at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you're free at this time on Sunday, maybe you're free at this time also on Tuesday nights. So you could join for that. It'll be a lot of fun that way. Second, I have a second update. So second off, for those who are here for the tier list, I'm going to get to that in just a moment. I'm just doing some quick updates for everyone. So if you're unfamiliar with my channel, you can totally check me out. I do podcasts with scholars and experts in a variety of different subjects on the topics of science, religion, and philosophy. So you can check out all of that content. My second update, though, in addition to those weekly live streams, I'm also going to start doing after the show commentary. So after every single episode that I post, I'm going to go live on that next Sunday. So around this time, it'll be around probably 4 or 5 p.m. But that Sunday after I upload every single podcast episode, I'm going to go live. I'm going to be going through all of the comments. I'm going to be going through just kind of key moments that I thought maybe were really interesting, or maybe moments that weren't quite elaborated enough, get some behind the scenes scoop stuff. So like, a few times there's been things that I in post sort of edited out because it was a slip or I said something I thought was really dumb. I'm going to expose myself and allow you guys to watch that kind of content on the after the show commentary. You're going to see exclusive behind the scenes, see exclusive takes from myself. It's going to be a lot of fun. So you can look forward to those two things. Tuesday night live stream, 7:30. That's going to be the watch parties of Alex O'Connor videos. Hopefully within a year, I'll be able to watch every single Alex O'Connor video. And then on the Sundays after every single upload, that's going to be the after the show commentary. Let me know in the comments below, where are you guys tuning in from? Where are you guys coming from? The Bat Cave. That is one of my good friends, my old roommate. Shout out to my roommate, my past roommate. I'm sad that we're not roommates anymore, bro. I really wish we were we're still living together. Exclusive behind the scenes thing here. My first episode ever that I uploaded, you're going to notice that it was in a different location. And that's when I was living in that house in a specific area. It was called the Bat Cave because we got invaded by bats. So it was pretty wild. Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of fun. So that was pretty wild. That was pretty insane. I think we have a video of it where I actually we like put together like barrier to like close off the bat and tried to keep it contained. And then from that afterward, we were able to find the bat kind of sleeping and perched up high. So we kind of snuck up and grabbed it and then just threw it out the door. Probably one of the wildest things. Hello, yo, Jumpy Yeast. Welcome to the hangout. But yeah, back with the story. I grabbed the bat and ran upstairs and threw it out the door. And then my roommate here, he slammed the door afterwards. So it was pretty wild. I'd never actually dealt with bats really much before that. So that was a new experience. And then the third update that I had for you guys. So the next video that I'm going to be uploading this Friday is going to be a reaction video. I'm going to be reacting to a debate that was recently had between Dr. David Patrick Harry. He's a Orthodox kind of scholar. He's an Orthodox Christian, but he also produces a lot of scholarship. And I'm going to be reacting to a debate between him and a different guest that I had on this podcast, Zena, and they discussed free will. That podcast, if you've heard of the Whatever podcast, it was on that one. And there was a lot of like kind of hot takes, a lot of kind of crazy stuff going on with that. And so that was definitely pretty wild. So I'm going to be reacting, responding, and hopefully being able to share some more nuance on the topic, because the topic itself, I think, didn't really get emphasized a lot. It was a lot of kind of just cheap shots here and there. And I just really wish that the topic was better kind of taken care of. Yes, Ben, I remembered your username. I didn't know if you wanted me to shout out your name or not, but that's kind of why I was freaking out when I saw Jumpy Yeast from the Minecraft days. We used to play Minecraft all the time, and that was your username all the way back then. So that's amazing. I love that. So those are the kind of the big things to be looking up for in the future. And as people are coming in, I'm going to get started with this thing. So kind of a brief overview of what's going to be going on today. We are doing a tier list, classic tier list, and it's going to be on the the whole idea of the best and worst moments in the Bible. So what were some of the most impactful, maybe some of the funniest moments? Maybe they were just some of the most beautiful moments for you that you've read. One for me that was definitely like the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 6 specifically in the Sermon on the Mount. That was always super impactful. But we're going to be talking about anything and everything in between. I'm going to pull it up here real quick. So this right here, this is the tier list. And I got a whole kind of spew of things down here, just different moments that you can see. And we're going to be ranking them. So it's going to be kind of right here. You can kind of see it's the parting of the Red Sea. This part. Okay, let me know if you guys think you can guess what this picture is. It's kind of small. So let me know if it's too small, but this picture right here, what do you think that is depicting? It's a very niche story in the Bible. Yeah. No, it's definitely like a very niche story. That one I would say, I don't know if everyone's heard of it. Let me just a little hint. It has to do with Elisha. And it has to do with his hair, his head of hair, specifically the lack of hair that he has on his head. So we got that one going. And then we also have Jonah, classic Jonah story, and a few other goodies. So that's going to be just a lot of fun to go through, for sure. So I say we just get started with this thing. The first one, as I highlighted before, is the splitting of the Red Sea. I'm gonna put it in D. Actually, I don't Not like that's where I'm ranking it. I'm just going to put it there for now so we know what we are working with. So, the parting of the Red Sea. This story is pretty much a classic. I think, like, give me a thumbs up in the chat. Do you know this story? I feel like most people probably do know this story. If you've ever seen the 10 Commandments, it's kind of the moment where, what's his name? The famous actor, he comes up and he kind of raises his rod, and then the sea's split in half. This moment is depicted all over pop culture, and I think it's very specifically, like, it's very interesting in particular because it's very unique to kind of the history of things, to how things played out in antiquity. There aren't really any other stories that predate this. Peak Prince of Egypt moment. Yes, Prince of Egypt. Shout out to Prince of Egypt. Yeah, it's definitely a really cool moment. You definitely see in the old 10 Commandments movie. I think it's from like the 50s or 60s. There's this moment where the Egyptians kind of come up and they're trapped between the army of the Egyptians and the sea. And you just hear kind of screaming and people kind of moving around. You hear the donkeys kind of clattering around, and it's a very intense moment. So I think based on the sheer just pop cultural influence that it's had since its initial writing in Exodus, I think it's got to be at least A or S tier. What are your guys' thoughts? I think I'm leaning S, but I think it's got to be either A or S, just because of how influential of a moment it was. Most people sort of most people know about this, right? You don't even have to know much about the Bible in order to know about this moment. So it's definitely a peak, top tier moment. As Jumpy, you said, a peak moment. Or Ben, I'll just say your name if you're cool with that. Definitely a top moment. I'm thinking in A. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. Or S. Sorry, I was leaning S. Either S or high A. Very influential. Yeah. I'm going to put it in S. We can always change these later. But I'm gonna put it in S because I really think this has got to be, if there isn't anything else, maybe the resurrection kind of is up there too. But this has got to be one of the key moments. And Moses is such a key figure for like not just Christians but also Jews and like Muslims too. So it's gotta be up there for sure. Hello, S tier. Yeah, I'm seeing some S tiers over here. So that's awesome. All right, our second one. This is the story of Abraham and Sarah. There's actually two instances of this in the Bible. One in Genesis chapter 12 and another in Genesis 20, where Abraham and Sarah, they travel down to Egypt, and while in Egypt, they sort of run into the Egyptian, the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh sees Sarah and is like, ooh, she's kind of fine looking. And in order for Abraham to keep his life, he decides to lie and say, oh, she's just my sister. You can, take her as a wife or what have you. More likely a concubine or something. And so in that moment, we see that the Pharaoh is like, okay, cool. And he takes Sarah into his court. Abraham is invited in because, he's not a husband. He's not going to be like competing for her hand in marriage. And overall, after a long period of time, the Pharaoh ends up getting sick. And after getting sick, he sort of realizes that Sarah is Abraham's wife. And so because of the sickness and everything, he ends up giving up the no worries. I'll see you. Thanks for tuning in. Great to see you. But after that, he ends up giving up on the marriage, obviously between them. And right then, that's when God sort of reveals to the Pharaoh that they were married, that Abraham and Sarah weren't brother and sister, but were married. So we see this actually happening both times in Genesis 12 and Genesis 20 with Abraham and Sarah. Scholars actually think that these two stories were two different versions of the same story. And so you have the Israelite kingdom and the Judahite kingdom. And we see a lot of like duplicates in Genesis particular. And so the explanation that scholars propose is that the duplicates are, one version is the kingdom of Israel and the other version is from the kingdom of Judah. And then when the two kingdoms merged, they sort of told the stories together as if they were kind of separate moments. That might still be the case. I don't know, but that's definitely what the scholarship kind of has to say on it. So it's very interesting. We also see the same thing happen between Isaac and Rebekah. So Abraham's son, he ends up also doing the same thing with his own wife. They go to Egypt and he says, "Oh, she's just my sister." And it's, I don't know. It's kind of, it's interesting. They definitely had a very different way of doing things back then. That's for sure. But welcome everybody. So we are currently talking about the travel of Abraham and Sarah to Egypt, where Abraham had to lie about his wife Sarah being his sister. So that's the topic we are currently ranking. I think this isn't like super influential. I'm leaning kind of probably B tier for this one. It's like a weird story. It definitely has interesting like historical connotations to it with like the duplicate narratives and everything between the Judahite version and the Israelite version. So like that's kind of interesting. But honestly, these stories are kind of weird. C or D? Okay. So I'm seeing C or D. I'll put it down to C. What else are your guys' thoughts? This story is definitely an interesting one. I'll read it here every once in a while. But it's not like super engaging. It's also not like when we look at the splitting of the Red Sea, like that is a momentous moment. Like Family Guy talks about that, American Dad has a segment on that. Like Moses as a figure is one of the most influential, and the parting of the Red Sea is probably the most influential moment out of the entire narrative of Moses. So when we compare that to Abraham going to Egypt, that's it's not as interesting. So I'm going to put it in C for now. And if you guys have any other thoughts, let me know. And maybe we can move it. You guys can feel free to give me an argument, too. If you're like, oh no, that has to be top tier, or oh no, that has to go down. Let me know. All right, so this is the next one. So I don't know if many of you are familiar with this story at all. This story is a story between. It's like what happens right after Elijah is taken up into heaven, right? So we have Elijah, and we have a fiery carriage that comes down, and the carriage brings down or comes down and grabs Elijah and takes him up into heaven. So that happens. So Elijah never actually dies as the prophet, but he gets taken up into heaven and things of that sort. But Elisha gets left, and right after he leaves, he goes and he does something in a town. Then he goes to Bethel, and on the way to Bethel, this is when the crazy story happens. It's in 2 Kings chapter 2 at the very end of it. You can check it out. And at the end of 2 Kings chapter 2, Elisha is walking, and he's on his way to Bethel. And in this moment, these group of kids, this big group of kids, we think it's probably boys. They might have been people in the priesthood as well, but they come and they start mocking Elisha. They start mocking the fact that he's bald, and they start saying bald head, stuff like that. I'm sure Adam, like you're used to that kind of stuff from, your middle schoolers here and there. So they say some of the craziest stuff, but Elisha, in this moment, probably due to the fact that he is a prophet and that, God is deeply on his side, he turns around and sends 2 bears at these children, and the bears attack the kids, and 42 of the kids end up getting injured from the bears. So it's a pretty wild story. Elisha's, I don't really know how to take it. There's a lot of different interpretations of it. I think most theologians today are like Elisha was acting and using the kind of the privilege he has as God's prophet in a negative way. So that's kind of one interpretation. But overall, the story's pretty wild. The 2 bears just kind of, Elisha's like, you don't call me bald, and he sends the 2 bears onto the kids. So it's definitely an interesting story, very short story. Not a lot of people have heard about it, but I think just sheer shock value, it's got to be at least B, in my opinion, based on just how insane of a series of events it was. It's got to be definitely up there. But yeah, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Should it go higher or lower? I don't know. It's in 2 Kings chapter 2. So for any of you who want to check out where specifically that is, I think it's like verses 23 through 25. I have it written down. Yeah, 2 Kings 23 or 2 Kings 2, 23 to 25. So I'm sure, I also think a big part of it is like Elijah had just like ascended into heaven. So like there was this moment where, his master prophet, Master Shifu, his master prophet sort of was there and wanted him to, and he like had this kind of moment where his master's gone, and he's probably sad from that. And then for like some kids to kind of turn around and be like, oh, that's, like you're bald and stuff. And that's gotta be a rough situation. So, all right, well, I'm going to leave that in B. I think that's probably a safe spot for that one. The next one. So this is probably one of my favorite stories in the entire Bible. On the thumbnail, I put a donkey on there specifically because of this story. I love this story, and it has very interesting theological connotations, but it also has a very interesting kind of like historical relevance. So this is the story of Balaam, the prophet, or not prophet, I guess false prophet, Balaam, the false prophet, and his trying to curse Israel. He attempted to curse Israel, and in the attempt, he repeatedly failed, time and time again. He tried to curse Israel like 3 times because he was hired by the king of Moab. And in the process of trying to curse Israel, he ends up blessing Israel. Like God basically takes over and influences him so that he only blesses Israel. So it's a very interesting passage. It's in Numbers, what is it? Numbers 22 through 23. And in the end of the story, what I kind of learned when I first read it is this idea of God has always got your back, right? Even when you don't know that you're being like attacked by something external, like God is there and he's got your back. That's kind of the moral of the story behind it. And I think that's a really cool moral. I think I definitely was brought to tears, moments of reading through that. And it's just such a really cool story. I also think the main part that people point to is this part where Balaam is riding on a donkey. Okay. He's riding on his donkey and he's basically going to meet with the king of Moab. This is before he does any like curses on Israel and ends up actually blessing Israel. This is before all that. The king of Moab comes and says, hey, I want to hire you to curse Israel because they're growing and they're a threat to us. And so Balaam's like, okay, I can get hired. I can get paid. Easy money. So he gets packing up, he gets ready to go, and on the way over, an angel appears in the middle of the road, and the donkey stops. And the donkey's like, I ain't going in front of that angel because that angel has a sword, and that sword is dangerous. And so as Balaam is sort of going and trying to get to the king of Moab to get his money, to get paid, right? He's trying to get a job done. During this process, the angel's standing there ready to kill him. The donkey sees the angel, but Balaam does not see the angel, and the donkey's freaking out. And Balaam's like, go, go, go. And he's trying to he's whipping the donkey. He's trying to get him to go forward. And after whipping the donkey for several times, the donkey ends up speaking. He starts talking, and the donkey basically says, stop hitting me. There's an angel in front of you. And Balaam's like, what? And then God reveals the angel in front of him, and Balaam ceases to continue with his charade. So it's definitely a pretty wild story. A talking donkey, Narnia style. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from this one. So I definitely love this story. I don't think most people would put it in S tier. I would put it in S tier because I love this story so much. I just think it's so fun. I also, honestly, I'd put it ahead of, I'm not going to do that, but I'll let you guys put your input in. So let me know why you think this should be higher or lower. Another interesting thing about this story, though, so I can kind of highlight this, is the fact that Balaam is actually the oldest named character that we have that's also mentioned in another text outside of the Bible. So out of all the other characters in the Bible, Balaam's actually the first person to be named outside of the Bible as a character. It is, let me see what it is. The Dear Allah inscription. So this is a Moabite inscription. It dates back to 840 to 760 BCE. And it's the first instance of someone's name from the Bible being outside of the story. Hello, welcome guys. Welcome, Jared. Glad that you are here. Currently, we are ranking the story of Balaam and his donkey, the talking donkey in the Bible. So it's a pretty wild moment. All right, let me know your guys' thoughts. For just sheer nostalgia, I'm biased. I get that I'm biased. I love this story so much. But I love this story so much. But this is as much of a conversation between me and you guys. So I would love to hear what you guys think about this story. I mean, the history part of it, the fact that Balaam's the very first name that we have outside of the Bible, named in the Bible. I think that's so interesting. I'm so interested as to like who he was as a character, you know. So let me know your thoughts, because I'm gonna keep it in S if I don't get your guys' thoughts. I guess that's a threat. I don't know. I just love this story so much. It's such a good one. Have you guys ever? I see we have one person who said, "Ooh, this is that story." So I didn't get to the donkey part right away. I kind of dilly-dallied with my explanation. So but a lot of people know it as the talking donkey story in the Bible. I think personally that Balaam's donkey, favors waffles, making waffles. I think that's probably a thing. So I don't know though. I'm going to switch over because I just realized I was on full screen. So I'm going to stick it with S. Oh, we got a few chats. Yeah, I that's kind of how most people know it. It's a really nice story about kind of the protection of people. Jared put it in S. Thank you. Thank you for agreeing with me. Thank you for validating my feelings. Okay. Below the Red Sea, but definitely S for sure. Okay, sweet. This is making me happy. Make sure to give this stream a like. Hey, hello, welcome Mean Soak. Welcome to the chat. Talking donkey. Donkey seems trippy. And S. Okay, that's a pretty epic statement right there. What a way to enter the chat. I love that. Guys, give this live stream some hearts. You do that, it'll be able to get this out to more people. So definitely give it some more hearts. That would do me a solid. Yeah, okay. I'm thinking everyone's agreeing. This is an S. This is an S tier. I mean, we got a talking donkey, man. And the only thing it's missing is waffles, Shrek, and a dragon. That's the only thing it's missing, in my opinion. Definitely a pretty epic moment. All right. I'm going to keep it in S. I personally would put it over the splitting of the Red Sea. I get it, but I'm going to listen to you guys. I don't think most people would do it there. I don't think most people would put it there. You guys are giving me S, so I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to roll with that. So I'm happy about it. All right. So the next one, and for anyone who's just joining us, I'm just putting it in D to signify, okay, this is the one we're working on. So Jonah, the story of Jonah and the giant fish. Okay. Question. Was the giant fish a whale? What are you guys' thoughts? Did you think the giant fish was a whale? Maybe it was a whale shark. Maybe it was a giant goldfish. I don't know. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. What kind of fish swallowed Jonah whole? It's got to be a pretty big fish, to do that. So the story of Jonah, we have Jonah who decides to sort of run away from his sort of task. God gives him a task to go and preach to the Ninevites. And after being given this task, I think it was a goldfish. Yes, definitely a goldfish. After being given this task, he ends up going instead to the opposite side of the world. He goes to Tarshish. I can never pronounce that right. Tarshish. I feel embarrassed trying to say that word. Comment below. Can you say Tarshish? But he goes to Tarshish, and on his way, God sends a storm. The people are like, "Why is this storm happening?" And basically Jonah's like, "Oh, it's all my fault." And after it being sort of all his fault, he's then sent off into the sea and gets swallowed up by a fish. The people literally throw him off board, throw him overboard. It's crazy. So pretty crazy moment. Tarshish or Tardy. Yeah, maybe it's Tardy. But after that kind of wild moment there, Jonah gets swallowed by a fish, and he says a prayer to God. It's like a 3-verse prayer. And then on his way, God relents and lets the fish spit him out. And he gets spat out onto this island, which, lo and behold, is Nineveh, the place that he's supposed to go to. So everything works out. Everything works out in the end. And Jonah gives the best, sermon in history, in my opinion. He basically says everyone's going to be destroyed. Everyone's going to be destroyed. And in the end of that, he ends up converting the entire group of people, the entire nation. That is probably the most goated moment. This one is iconic. One of my favorites from VeggieTales. Dude, the VeggieTales version is always hype. What is it? The asparagus guy. What was his name? What was the asparagus guy's name? The guy who was Jonah. Do you guys remember? Oh, dude, I don't remember. Minsuk says Hawk Tuh. Imagine if that was the sermon that Jonah gave. Instead of saying, I wonder if it would have worked. I wonder if Hawk Tuh would have been enough. Comment below. Junior. Oh, was it Junior? Oh, Junior was his son, though. Junior was Archibald. Yes. It was Archibald and Junior. Dang. Nice job, guys. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so in the story of Jonah, according to VeggieTales, we have Archibald who gets stranded on an island and then has to go and preach the gospel or preach the bad news of the gospel to all of the Ninevites in hopes that they will repent in sackcloth and ashes. It's definitely a classic. I am probably thinking A tier. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? A tier. I mean, this story is definitely a classic. It's got VeggieTales behind it. I mean, come on. We got VeggieTales. It's also just one of the minor prophets that actually has a story. It's not just kind of like a random kind of list of prophecies, but it's an engaging story. The dude gets swallowed by a fish. All right, you guys haven't said. I heard goldfish from Jared. What kind of fish do you think swallowed him? We got A tier. Okay, so A tier. That's where I'm leaning, is kind of A tier. It's got a lot of interesting things going for it. That's for sure. But in terms of whether or not it's like S tier, I don't know if I could give it S tier. You're gonna have to convince me to bring it S tier, because I don't know. It's got that. Most people know what it is. It's got a VeggieTales adaptation, so it's got that VeggieTales points. Maybe the VeggieTales points bring it up. I don't know. Does the fact that it has a VeggieTales adaptation, does that bring it up? Oh, it could be a shark. I personally think it was a whale shark. I think it was a whale shark, because they would definitely be big enough in order for him to swallow it whole. So that's an interesting thing. But I don't know. All right, I'm thinking A. I'm gonna stick with A tier, but not even a short adaptation, a full movie. That's true. High A. Do I give it S? I don't know. I think I have to stick A. Yeah, I'm just getting A's around here. You guys just agree with me. I guess I'm just like the ultimate, judge of everything. So feel free to disagree with me. But if you disagree with me, that just, gets my ego going. I love it. Makes me happy. makes me really happy. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I don't think quite S. Yeah, I'm going to agree. I don't think it's that much of a great story to bring it all the way up to S. It's definitely iconic. It has adaptations to it. But in terms of like if you actually read it, it's not as engaging as it is in terms of VeggieTales. VeggieTales makes it so much more cooler. I mean, it's got the pirates, right? We are the pirates who don't do anything. That just came to me. That's crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna say A tier. I think I would only be tempted to bring it up to S because of nostalgia. But outside of that, I think it's really just A tier. Okay. Next one. So this one comes from the book of Judges. Not a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people are going to be super familiar with this. But it happened during the rule of Deborah, the judge. Deborah is the only female judge in the entire Bible. So there's no other sort of judges besides Deborah. So that's a pretty interesting thing. But at the time, Israel is at war. I think it's with the Moabites as well. You can fact check me on that. And in this kind of moment of war, the leading person for the warfare, his name's Sisera. He's tired. He's been battling. He's been fighting. And he ends up leaving the war and going into the tent of someone he is supposed to be a ally. This is one of the leading generals for I think it's Moabites. I might be wrong on that. And so his name's Sisera. He comes to this tent of some ally tent. And the lady of the tent, the lady of the house, kind of greets him and is like, come, sit down, rest, sleep here. But she is a secret agent. She is a secret agent. And in this moment, when Sisera is at his weakest, he's sleeping, she goes outside, she grabs a tent peg, and she stabs him in the eye and kills the general of the enemy army. It's a pretty wild story. Absolutely wild story. Definitely violent. I mean, so many stories in Judges are just absolutely violent, just absolutely crazy. And it's such a intriguing story. Definitely one where I guess I would just say I think it's just the shock value, right? The Israelites are losing this war. They're not doing great in this battle. The leading general ends up leaving to get some rest from the battle, and instantly tent peg to the eye, and Israel gets the victory. I mean, that's pretty epic right there. That's pretty epic. So, and I brought this up that the leader of Israel was a woman at the time, and the person who stabs this guy in the face with the tent peg was also a woman. So it's kind of one of those moments in the Bible where women are like celebrated. So that's another kind of cool part because she's just a badass, who just like stabs the guy in the face. I think I also like this because it's the little boy in me who's like, yay, violence, I guess. I don't know. So, this story is definitely not one that a lot of people are familiar with, which is sad. I wish this story more people knew about it because it's a very interesting one. It's girl power. It's a very interesting story where the tides just totally flip in a moment. It has betrayal, espionage, all that interesting stuff. So to me, this story should be better known, but it's sadly not, and not a lot of people know about it. So I'm going to put it in B because it's an interesting story, but it's not like super well known. So those are my initial thoughts. What are your guys' thoughts? is B the place for the tent peg story? For the story of JAEL is her name, the person who won the battle for Israel. It's a very interesting story. A tent peg of all things, you know. It's pretty brutal too. She like grabs like a hammer and like nails it into the person. If I'm grossing you guys out from all the violent talk, let me know. I'll try to tone it down if needed. But yeah, I'm leaning B, but I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. Is this a B tier? And then if it's B tier, because we already put the one with Elisha, right? The one where the guys like, you know, the kids come up and they're like, Baldy, Baldy. Like that's another like interesting story, but not a lot of people know about it, right? And so I feel like B tier is kind of like, oh, it's interesting, but not a lot of people know about it. So like that's kind of the main intrigue of it. I'm just realizing now I should probably name these. I should name these categories. I'll do that in the future. But yeah, what are you guys' thoughts? Is this of higher value than B or lower value? I think it's an interesting story, but the fact that it's just not super well known, that's going to bring it to just B tier, in my opinion. So oh my gosh, I just realized I can do a poll. So is this story, I'm going to say, I don't think it's S, but I'll include A through D tier. Because I really don't think it's S tier. If you think it's S tier, you're going to have to give me a good argument. I'm going to start a poll. You guys go ahead and vote. Vote down below. Is it an A, B, C, or D tier? I'm going to be shocked if you guys think it's A. But it might be. It might be A. I want to hear your arguments, you know? Oh, okay. We got one person coming in saying it's B tier. It's definitely an interesting moment. Okay, B tier. We're at 50% between B and D tier. Which I mean, if it stays 50%, okay, now we're tied. We got tied between B, C, and D. Interesting. Who's going to be the tiebreaker? Who's going to be the tiebreaker? Okay. Yeah, I'm okay, you guys don't like this story. I tried. All right, I'm going to end the poll. It looks like D tier won. D tier won the vote. So I'm going to bring it down to D tier. I respect that. I'm sad. I think it's an interesting take, but you know, D tier is D tier. It's fine. I'm not crying. I'm not crying. All right, the next one. So this one I actually did a video on. You guys should check it out. It is my third video, and it's and I also talked to Dr. Kip Davis about this as well. It's the story of Judah and Tamar in the Bible, Genesis chapter 38. So it's a very intriguing story, so much espionage. And the thing that makes this even cooler is it's probably a piece of political propaganda in order to basically make Solomon look more legitimate as a king. That or maybe it's political propaganda in the opposite direction of that, to make Saul and his line look like they should actually have stayed kings. So it's definitely interesting because of that. But on its own too, it's a very interesting story. So I I don't know. I would say because I've spent so much time on this story, I would lean higher, probably B tier, maybe A or B. Not a lot. It's another one that not a lot of people really know a lot about. But if you see that video, you're gonna see that the connection between the narrative of like David and his king, right? So David and his sort of throne. He basically is king over Israel, and his first son ends up being murdered by his third son, Absalom, right? So his first son, the next son in line to be king, gets murdered by his own son. And so that's kind of a suspicious situation. Like, if your first son gets murdered, obviously he can't be king. The next son, his name means Nabal, which in Hebrew means stupid. So I don't think he's going to be the next king because everyone thinks he's stupid. And his third son, Absalom, who's favored by most people to be the next king, he's the one that killed the next in line king, right? And so since Absalom's killing the first guy, that kind of like, are we really going to reward him with the throne? Like, that's kind of a weird thing. But possibility. And then, what's his name? Ahoya. I'm totally blanking on the next guy's name, but the next son, he then ends up kind of putting his name out there to be king. And then finally the prophet Nathan shows up and is like, actually, David, you should have Solomon be your king because supposedly at some point, which isn't documented in the Bible, you agreed that he would be the next in line. Even though Solomon's the 11th son of David, David has 10 other sons before Solomon and many, many other people who are more in line to be king. And yet Solomon becomes king. So this story of Judah and Tamar, a lot of people think that it's a story that was told by the side of either Saul, right? So the reign of Saul, they told the story of Judah and Tamar as a way to sort of critique the fact that Solomon was going to be the next king after David. And the people in Saul's camp are like basically telling the story because they felt that they were wrongfully usurped by David, right? Because Saul was the first king, then David was the second king, and David took over the throne after Saul. He kind of forcefully took it over. But there were still people from Saul that were around who were like, this shouldn't happen, right? We should still have people here. So we should still have a claim to the throne. So anyway, this story of Judah and Tamar, I won't go through the entire thing right now, but basically Judah is one of the brothers of Joseph, right? You have the 12 sons of Israel, right? Or Jacob, the 12 sons of Jacob. And one of them is Judah, and he's probably the most famous one. His lineage is also the one that the King David comes from, and then later Jesus comes from, according to the Bible. And so Judah is this kind of prominent figure, but in this story, he makes a lot of mistakes. He ends up sleeping with his daughter-in-law, and it's kind of a very messy story. But we see a connection between Judah and his sons and David and all of his sons. And Judah, he makes a mistake, I don't know which words I can say here on YouTube, but a immoral mistake. And in that mistake, God judges him, right? David does the same thing with Bathsheba. And what follows is a lot of David's sons getting killed. And in the Judah story, a lot of his sons end up getting killed as a result of his sort of promiscuity, right? So it's an interesting tale. definitely check out my video on it. Plug to my video on Genesis chapter 38 between Judah and Tamar. It's the third one there, and then I have a follow-up video where I interview Dr. Kip Davis talking about it as well. So, but yeah, we'll do another poll. And we'll do, I think it could be S, but again, I'm biased. So I'm gonna put all of them in. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I can only do 4. Do any of you guys think it should be S tier? Because I'm only kind of leaning in that direction. But do any of you guys think it should be S tier? If you think it should be S tier, speak your mind. If not, I'm just going to do A through D. Because it's definitely an interesting story. It has a lot of... Okay, Jared, you think it should? This is what I'll do. I'm going to do S through A. And then an A through D. That's what we'll do. S through A through D. And then from there, we'll do a second vote. All right. So go ahead. Let's hear your votes. Yeah, and give the stream give it a heart. Share it with people. Let me know how you guys are liking the stream too. I'm excited about this kind of topic because I find it to be definitely an interesting one. All right, so we got 1 vote for A through D. That's kind of what I was expecting, honestly. I don't think a lot of people know about this story, but, if you guys enjoy it, maybe it is S tier. Who knows? I'll keep it live for a little bit longer. But yeah, it's a fun story, definitely. A lot of sort of political intrigue. I equate it to, like, if you like Game of Thrones, if you are a fan of something like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings or something like that, where there's a lot of sort of medieval political intrigue, right? This is going to be the story for you. Genesis chapter 38, but then also the succession narrative. So like the chapters of from when David, forces himself upon Bathsheba, that all the way through when Solomon becomes king, that whole like section of chapters is called the succession narrative. That is also definitely right there. That's going to have a lot of political intrigue to it. So, yeah. All right. Well, it looks like we got A through D as the main option. So, since that is the case, should it be A, B, C, or D? My niece would be proud of me for knowing the alphabet. All right. So now we got the official vote. The official vote. Cast your votes. This is a democratic society. Is it A, B, C, or D? We got 1 vote for C. Yeah. I'm kind of with you. Oh, yeah, 1 vote for B. Interesting. I'm thinking it's going to be kind of on the lower side, but, what have you. either way is fair. Fair game. After this, we got some more, I think, ones that you guys will be familiar with. So that'll be, I think, a little bit more interesting. Because I could talk about these stories all day, right? But if you're unfamiliar with them, you're unfamiliar with them. That's chill. I think I'm gonna leave it up for another minute. Just one more minute. We're talking about the story in Genesis chapter 38, the story between Judah and Tamar. It's a story of political intrigue. It's a story of death. You might have heard of it as the story of Onan, where he, is sort of doing the deed. I don't know how much I can actually say on YouTube, so I better watch my tongue. But he's doing the deed, and instead of, doing it and leaving it, spilling his seed inside, he pulls out and spills his seed onto the ground, and God kills him instantly because of that. So it's definitely an interesting take there. So I don't know. All right, we're split between B and C. I think I'm going to make the executive decision that it's C. I don't think too many people know the story, so I'm going to just say C, and we'll leave it there. All right, classic one. We have Daniel in the Lion's Den. This one's got a VeggieTales adaptation. This one, I think actually is Archibald the main character in this one as well. I'm pretty sure it's Archibald, my man Archibald. Oh, what a legend! I'm gonna hold up. Let me get a picture of Archibald here. But yeah, we got another VeggieTales adaptation here. The story between Daniel and the Lion's Den is basically, a classic story where Daniel, he is told by the government that he can no longer worship God. He can no longer pray to God. And in that moment of them saying, like, you can no longer pray to God, I got a comment here. For those unfamiliar with the stories, you can reference the verses in the Bible, and then your listeners can pull it up or read it later. Yeah, so for Daniel, it's in Daniel chapter 6 is the story of Daniel in the Lion's Den. Thank you for that. That's a really good point. And in that story, Daniel is basically being told that he should not pray at all to God anymore. And he says, no, I'm not going to do that. I am definitely going to pray to God. I'm going to continue to do that. And in defiance to the government, God allows him to be saved from the punishment. And what is the punishment? He gets thrown into a den of lions to be eaten alive. It's a pretty vile punishment. But we definitely see it, all over the place. Tons of adaptations. You can read it in Daniel chapter 6. And then we also got kind of an image here. I'm going to pull up the VeggieTales. Version. Okay, it's Larry, actually. It's Larry the Cucumber, who's the guy from VeggieTales. How does that work? So my man Larry is the guy to be looking for. So I think this one is pretty familiar with people in general, but I'd definitely be interested in seeing it in a poll. I'm leaning that this should go probably A or S tier, This is a classic story. It's a really interesting story where, God sort of saves the guy from being eaten alive. It's a pretty mad lad moment. Definitely a Chad moment for the guy. So I'm going to put it in S tier. I got it up here in S tier. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? Should this be higher, lower? Let me know. I'm gonna start a poll. Where does Daniel rank? Rar. See if I add a lion. Oh yeah, there it is. All right. S tier. Okay, we got one for S tier. I mean, if you think it's D tier, you're going to have to convince me, but I think it's got to be S through C tier. This is just such a interesting story. You know, it's a classic story. It's got that VeggieTales like adaptation, and that's really going to bring things up in my opinion. I feel like if it has that VeggieTales aspect to it, right? If it has a VeggieTales adaptation, it's got to be bumped up. It's got to get some points for that. You know what I mean? Because pop culture is going to be all over it. You know, pop culture's all over this place. And then Daniel's just, you know, super dedicated guy. I was really kind of wanting to do the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego as well, or the Rack, Shack, and Benny. I thought that would also be an interesting one. I decided against it. Decided to just do Daniel. Okay. Most people are thinking S tier. Okay. We got one person who said A tier. Love Daniel. Yep. I would agree. I think Daniel's quite a legend. So we got some more votes. 67% for S tier. Yeah. I'm there with you. I'm thinking it's S tier. Whoever voted A, let me know. Why do you think it's A tier? Because I could be convinced. I could be swayed. Maybe it is A tier. Maybe I'm just remembering the VeggieTales version and not remembering the real story, you know? So, but yeah, the Daniel's just overall like a really cool book. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, like they were sent into a fire and God protected them through the fire. So it's definitely an interesting story. I don't know if I would, I mean, it's not super historically, credible. So maybe that if you're into like history. Okay, we got another vote. Okay, we're split between S and A tier. We're split between S and A tier. Okay. Interesting. So, is it S or is it A tier? I hope this isn't split again. I'm leaning S tier. But we'll do one more vote. And we will see where people line. If it's going to be tied again, I'm just going to vote and give it S tier. Daniel chapter 6. Daniel taking down the lions. The lions. Let me know, are any of you guys Detroit Lions fans? Maybe that's going to sway your vote in the direction of S tier. Who knows? Maybe that's the thing. Yeah. So, but this one, okay, it's looking like S tier. And I'm voting S tier. So if you're A tier, you gotta start convincing people. Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah, it's S tier. 75 to 25%. All right. It's got to be S tier. And I'm going to put it in front of Balaam because I think more people know about it. So currently we got the splitting of the Red Sea. That's our number one vote. Best moment in the Bible. insane. Then we got Daniel in the lion's den. That's our second. Third, we have the story of Balaam and Balak. I'm glad you guys agreed with me because I don't think everyone would put it this high, but I love this story personally. The talking donkey is a crazy moment in the Bible. So amazing. All it's missing is waffles, bro. It just needs waffles. That's the only thing. In A tier, our next one is the story of Jonah. So Jonah and the giant fish. The question is, what kind of fish did Jonah get swallowed by? Some think it's a shark, whale, who knows? Then we have the story of Elisha in B tier, which is the story of him being made fun of for being bald by a bunch of kids and him getting some retaliation with some bears. So it's definitely an interesting story there. Then in C tier, we have Abraham and Sarah going to Egypt, and Abraham saying that his wife Sarah is actually his sister. So it's an interesting story. That one has 2 adaptations in Genesis 12 and Genesis 20 as well. So you can check those out. Next, we have the story of Judah and Tamar. You know, I'm a little bit sad. That we put it in C tier, but I understand. And then last, we have the story of JAEL and the tent peg in Judges. What is that? Judges chapter 4. Judges 4, 17 through 22. All right, so next up, we have another classic, guys, and I'm just putting them in D to kind of signal that this is what we're doing next. But we have the Sermon on the Mount. All right, this is going to be Matthew chapter 5 through 7. And guys, this is probably one of my favorite sort of things, just in general. One of my favorite parts of the Bible. I'm going to pull it up and read some of the narrative, some of the stories, some of the things that he brings up. We have, the classic idea of where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. He has a discussion on anxiety, cast your anxiety onto me, right? There was one point a few years ago where I memorized Matthew chapter 6. I don't have it memorized anymore, sadly. But the entire Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes, be this, be that. It's all just in there. It's all super great. We even have the Lord's Prayer, right? The Lord's Prayer's in here. So it's definitely, in my opinion, it has a lot of value in terms of like what people have to say. Sermon on the Mount has to be an S. Yes, I'm kind of agreeing with you. I'm going to read some of it though. So we have, be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others in order to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So it's this idea of like, when you practice righteousness, when you give to people in need, don't flaunt it, The Lord's Prayer, our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread and forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. So cool. Discourse on fasting, treasures in heaven. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. So beautiful. And then this is my favorite part, is at the end where he talks about not worrying. And, for people who are skeptics, like this is definitely going to be a part where you can even like find joy in this, right? I still find joy in this as a non-believer, right? It's a beautiful text. It says, so do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? What shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry. I love this part. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Come on. Can I get an amen? Oh, my Pentecostal's coming out. It's just so good. It's such a classic part. I really think S tier. Okay. I think most people are saying S tier. I looked at the chat. Yeah, most people are saying S tier. So where in S tier? Do we think that the Sermon on the Mount beats out the Red Sea, the splitting of the Red Sea? I don't know. I'm thinking it does. I think it does. But what are your thoughts? Because I think we can all agree this has got to be S tier. This has got to be up there, one of the top moments. But does it beat out the Red Sea? Does it beat out Daniel in the lion's den? Does it beat out Balaam? I don't know. I don't know. Does it beat out Balaam and the talking donkey? I don't know. That might be a tough one. But where does it land in S tier? And we have 4 spots, so that's like perfect. So we're going to do slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, and slot 4. All right. The poll is out. You guys can vote. Is the Sermon on the Mount slot 1 S tier, slot 2 S tier, slot 3 S tier, or slot 4 S tier? Where does it rank? I'm personally leaning towards slot 1. Okay. We got 1 vote for slot 1. I mean, the parting of the Red Sea is definitely a big moment in the Bible. It's probably one of the coolest kind of moments that we see in the Bible. Most iconic, like I said when we were talking about it, like so many cartoons, we see it represented in, Family Guy. We see it represented in American Dad. We see it represented probably in Rick and Morty too. Moses is just such an iconic character. The parting of the Red Sea is probably the most iconic moment of Moses. That's debatable. Maybe it's the 10 Commandments. I don't know. But, under probably crucifixion, the Sermon on the Mount or the resurrection, the Sermon on the Mount is probably the most iconic for Jesus. So I don't know. I might even put the Sermon on the Mount over the crucifixion personally, even though the crucifixion is kind of a bigger moment. I think the Sermon on the Mount just is more touching for more people. I think it's just a more foundational, more beautiful moment than other moments that we see. Okay, so Riley's saying that put it in first slot. I think most people here are saying slot 2 under the Red Sea, which is fair. That's fair. That's fair. I'm with you, Riley. I think I would put it in slot 1, but I'm going to have to go with the consensus. It's slot 2. But hey, it's a number 1 in my heart, and it's a number 1 in your heart, Riley. We can agree on that. All right. Guys, we got bangers after bangers. The next one, the crucifixion of Jesus. Ooh, man, what a moment. This is the start of Christianity. Like, this is where it really started. I mean, we have the teachings of Jesus, and you can argue that maybe the teachings of Jesus is Christianity. I think if you're maybe a Gnostic, you'd probably argue in favor of that over the crucifixion itself. But the crucifixion of Jesus for modern Christians, that's the biggest moment, of the entire Bible. This is what it means to be a Christian, is to believe and have your faith dependent upon the action of Jesus. I'm thinking it has to be S tier. I think this, to me, this is probably one of the most obvious ones. S tier, like this is one of the most impactful things. This is the moment everyone points to when they're a Christian. This is the moment. And when I was a Christian, I dug into all of the arguments as well for like why the resurrection was like valid, like why it is a case. And I think it has a pretty strong historical case as miracles go. So, you can't look past it. The cross is probably one of the most biggest like artifacts in history. You know, it's got a lot going for it. That's definitely for sure. So I'm thinking S tier. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Is it A tier? I don't know. You're gonna have to be convincing. All right. Well, I'm gonna try and play devil's advocate here. Okay. So the crucifixion. Why is it not S tier? Well, the crucifixion is not necessarily the victory. It's the dark moment, right? It's the point when everything is sad. And so how can we say that it's the best moment? How can we say it's S tier when in reality it's the darkest moment? It's when God is being crucified. So maybe it's not S tier. I don't know. I'll put out another survey. I think it's either S or A tier. S tier. Okay. We got one vote for S tier. So is it going to be S tier or A tier? Jesus crucifixion. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's got to be S tier. I feel like this is kind of an obvious one. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's not obvious. You know, it is a dark moment, right? What did they say? They say everything's darkest before the dawn, right? So maybe it's just the dark moment before the dawn. Yeah, 100% S tier. Okay. Fine. I'm gonna end it. I think everyone's voting S tier. So, and honestly, I think it outbeats the parting the Red Sea. You're gonna have to type in chat if you disagree with me. I think it beats that out. I think it's number one so far out of everything we've done. All right, we got another banger: the resurrection of Jesus. The resurrection of Jesus. So if you thought that the crucifixion was S tier, I mean, what do you think about the resurrection? I mean, the resurrection is the victory party, right? It's the thing that makes everything click. It's the confirmation that victory has been had, that death has been overcome, that Jesus is alive. The resurrection. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. I mean, maybe it's not S tier. I think it is S tier. And if it's S tier, I think it's number one slot. So that's my thought. I'm going to put it up here. Right. Oh, I'm not even showing you guys. Here it is. Boop-a-doop. It's got to be S tier in my books. Up there. But then the question becomes, does it actually beat out the crucifixion? Because you don't get a resurrection without a crucifixion, right? Right? I mean, it's true. You don't get a resurrection without a crucifixion. You don't get a lot of things. I don't know. Mary Magdalene going to his tomb after the Sabbath is one of the most touching moments in the Bible. That's so true. That is actually very true. When he appears as a gardener, right? He appears as a gardener, and Mary Magdalene comes and sees that the tomb is empty. She's afraid. She's scared. And then there's a gardener there, and he goes and he's like, and she's like, "What happened to my Lord's body?" Right? And he basically says a few things, and over time she realizes, wait, this gardener is actually Jesus. He's alive. And then she's told to go and spread the message to Peter and John. So yeah, no, definitely a huge touching moment. Where in that, do you know which gospel that's in? I am blanking. I might search it up. Oh, you guys can see that screen. I'm pretty new to live streaming in general, so that's definitely something new. I'm gonna look it up though. Mary Magdalene. Okay. Oh. Yeah, so this is classic resurrection. Okay. So it looks like it's in John chapter 20 that we got this going. So I'll pull it up here. John chapter 20. Now Mary stood outside. Now Mary stood outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord," she said, "and I don't know where they have put him." At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. He asked her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me, where have you put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned to him and cried. She turned to him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Yeah, epic moment, epic moment. So cool. Yep, John 20, 1 through 18. All right, I think we're probably in agreement. It's probably S tier, probably top of S tier. I have to use the restroom real quick, so I will be right back. But after that, you can look forward to a story about Paul getting tied up by a belt. Interesting story. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. Nature calls. All right, so our next one that we got here is having to do with Paul. Yeah, S1, I agree. Thank you. So our next one has to do with our man Paul here. And it is an interesting story. Paul is on his way to Jerusalem. And on his way to Jerusalem, the disciples, or apostles, I should say. It isn't like the 12 disciples, but other disciples or apostles. They are gathered for this like sort of home church. And during the home church, there's a prophet that appears. This is in Acts 21, 10 through 14. This prophet appears and basically says, "Paul, you are going to be tied up and imprisoned if you go to Jerusalem. You might even die." The prophet is Agabus, and in order to solidify the point, he grabs Paul's belt and ties him up with his own belt and says, this is what they will do to the person who owns this belt if you go to Jerusalem. So, i.e., you're going to get all tied up and imprisoned if you go to Jerusalem. It's kind of an interesting moment, you know. It's like the prophecy has a very practical end to it. Kind of out of nowhere too. Paul's just kind of here chilling at a Bible study, and someone comes out and is like, "Can I have your belt?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And then he just ties him up. It's like, "This is what's gonna happen to you if you go to Jerusalem." It's like, "Oh, okay, jeez." But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on the story of Paul getting tied up by Agabus? Is it S tier? I don't know if it's S tier. Is it A tier? Maybe. I think it's a fun story. Definitely an interesting way to do prophecy. If you're a prophet out there, you know, take notes, bro. Agabus, he's your guy. If you're a prophet or prophetess. Is it B tier? Is it in line with the story of Elisha and the bears that he sent on some kids? Maybe. I personally am probably leaning in favor of B tier, or maybe C tier. It's just kind of an interesting story. I could be swayed for A tier even, but I don't think it's S tier. I really don't think it's top at all. So it's got to be probably A, B, or C in my books. Maybe it's D tier. Maybe you're just like, bro, I like Paul. I don't want him tied up by a belt. That's kind of sad. Nah, fam. If that's you, yeah, I respect that. I respect that. So let me know your guys' thoughts. C or D tier. Okay, that's what you guys are saying. Yeah, that's fair. Maybe next time I do this, because I'm thinking I'll do this again. I think I'll pick some more stories that the general public are a little bit more familiar with. These are just kind of fun stories that I saw, and I was like, oh, that's such an interesting one. But I think if people have a little bit more sort of connection to them, then that's going to be something people are more interested in, and maybe voting to be higher up on the list. So, yeah, Paul getting tied up. Where does it rank? Okay, Jared's saying B tier. Okay. Interesting. All right. The poll's going to be out in just a moment. And it's out. All right. Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Is it D? I don't know. I think it's B tier. I personally would say it's B tier. It's got that kind of like wackiness to it. It's got that wackiness factor, you know? That factor of like, what is this, you know? But I also get it. It's not something that's super impactful or like gonna like totally change your entire perspective on the world, you know, like Agabus tying up Paul, you know, that's not gonna change your entire perspective on things. So, but yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's looking like it's C tier. It's where most people are heading with the votes. I think we have one more open vote, but I'll give it just one more minute. I would probably agree. It's probably C tier, but it could be B. I don't know. Agabus seems like, my opinion, can we get more Agabus? You know, we need more Agabus in our life. I need more Agabus in my life, bro. He seems like an interesting character. Maybe it'd make you scared to, you know, go out in public with a belt on. For anyone who wears belts regularly, maybe it's not the move, right? Unless you want to be accosted, unless you want to be tied up. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna end the poll here. It's looking like it's looking like it's going to be C tier. So, all right, I'll secede. It's going to be C tier. I don't think it beats out Judah and Tamar. So, I just like that story too much. So, we're going to keep it there. All right. We are on the last one, guys. We made it. The last one. So this is the story of Simon Magus. And if you're not familiar, basically, this is the story. It's in Acts chapter 8, 9 through 24. Simon Magus is he's kind of like a spiritual guy. He does a lot of like miracles and healings and things of that sort. And he is going around, has a big reputation in terms of being like, I'm the healing man. I can hook you up. I can heal you. And that's when John and Peter show up and basically show him up. And instead of him being the guy who's goated, he's the guy that can heal you. These guys show him up and are like, no. He just has, little tricks here and there that make you think you're healed. The placebo effect. But in reality, our God can actually heal you. And they go and they actually heal people instantly. No remedies, no nothing needed. Just straight up healing. It's pretty sick. And so Simon Magus is kind of frustrated. He's like, what the heck? How are you guys doing this? How's this happening? And he ends up going up to Peter and John and in secret asks if they would allow him to pay them so that he can actually heal like they do. Like, give me the powers. I'll pay for it. So obviously, Peter and John refuse. They deny this kind of offer. And in return, Simon is left kind of alone, and he can no longer, he's sort of rebuked, right, for having even mentioned the fact of, paying to have the ability to heal people. So he's kind of a scummy guy. He's a magician. So if you like magicians, maybe you like him. But in my opinion, I don't think it's a heavy hitter. I would probably do C tier. I could be convinced of B tier though, but I'm thinking B or C. Yep, B or C. Yeah, it's definitely it's an interesting story. We got some competitiveness in terms of magic. For any of you who don't know where it's at, I'll repeat it. It's in Acts chapter 8, verses 9 through 24. In fact, I think I might just pull it up. All right, verses 9 through 4. Or 9 through, that doesn't make sense. Not 9 through 4. 9 through 24. Might be. 9 through 24. Now for some time, a man named Simon had practiced sorcery in the city and amazed all the people of Samaria. He boasted that he was someone great, and all the people, both high and low, gave him their attention and exclaimed, "This man is rightly called great power of God, the great power of God." They followed him because he had amazed them for a long time with his sorcery. But when they believed Philip as he proclaimed the good news of the... So it's Philip, sorry. When they believed... where was I at? But when they believed Philip as he proclaimed the good news of the kingdom of God and the name of Jesus Christ, they were baptized, both men and women. Simon himself believed and was baptized, and he followed Philip everywhere, astonished by the great signs and miracles he saw. When the apostles of Jerusalem heard that Samaria had accepted the word of God, they sent Peter and John to Samaria. When they arrived, they prayed for the new believers there that they might receive the Holy Spirit. I'll skip ahead. When Simon saw the Spirit was given at the laying of hands on the apostles, he offered them money and said, give me also this ability so that everyone on whom I lay my hands may receive the Holy Spirit." But Peter answered, "May your money perish with you, because you thought you could buy the gift of God with money. You have no part to share in this ministry because your heart is not right before God. Repent of this wickedness and pray to the Lord in the hope that he may forgive you for having such a thought in your heart. For I see that you are full of bitterness and captive to sin." So it's quite the condemnation there. All right, I'm seeing people are voting C, and I think I'm going to have to agree with you. Does it beat out the prophecy of Agabus? Does it beat out the prophecy of Agabus? Does it deserve to be last place in C? Really? Or does it deserve to be ticked up a little bit higher? Where should it go? Slot 1 through 4. This is perfect. One through 4. Here we go. I think next time when I do this, I'll definitely have to pick some more kind of stories that more people are familiar with. Some of these are kind of out there. I personally like the kind of wild out there takes because they just show kind of the wild side behind the Bible, one that's not often portrayed, you know. But I get it. I mean, I get it. Resurrection has got to be up there. Was I not showing the verses when I was reading them? I think I was not. My mistake. I thought I was. Apologies about that, folks. But yeah, it's Matthew chapter 8, verses 9 through the end of it. All right, where are we at? Where are we at on the poll? All right, we are split 50-50. One of you thinks it should be slot B, or slot 2. So behind the Abraham and Sarah story where Abraham says, "I am not the husband, but the brother of Sarah." So maybe it's there. Maybe it's slot 3 behind the story of Judah and Tamar. Maybe it's there too. I don't know. The real question is, does it really beat out Agabus? I mean, come on. Agabus, he's kind of a legend. He pulls out a belt, ties up Paul. That takes some courage right there. Paul's a mean guy, you know? He can be mean. He's a nice guy, but he can be mean sometimes. All right, where does it go? We're split. Your vote might change it. Your vote might alter things. Is it slot 2? Is it after, between Judah and Tamar and the story of Abraham and Sarah? Or is it between Agabus and Judah and Tamar? Okay, I think we have our winner. It's going to be slot 3. Man, it didn't beat it beat out Agabus. I'm kind of sad about that, but hey, a winner's a winner. Simon Magus is definitely an interesting character. So, total respect that. All right, well, guys, that's going to be our tier list. It is been pretty fun doing that with all of you guys. Splitting hairs in slot C. Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, that's going to be our main thing for tonight. I did have a few updates that I went over at the beginning, but for those of you who missed it, I am going to be live streaming regularly. So every Tuesday, I have a pretty wild idea. Every Tuesday, I'm going to be doing a live stream reacting to Alex O'Connor videos. And the reason is because in 1 year from now, I'm going to do a video where I basically say that I've watched and commented on every single Alex O'Connor video on the internet in hopes that he'll come up on this podcast and I'll be able to have him as a guest. So I reached out to Alex, Alice's agent, and she basically said no. She said they were busy, right? Which is fair. He's a busy guy. But I hope that this will get some traction going. You guys can participate in this. It's going to be an opportunity for you to be a part of a video, right? And so every Tuesday at 7:30 Central Standard Time, I'm going to be live streaming my reaction to Alex O'Connor videos. And if you don't know who Alex O'Connor is, literally look him up. He's the #1 YouTuber in this sort of field. If you know who I am, I'm sure you probably know who Alex O'Connor is. But if you don't, it's fine. You can look him up. He's a big YouTuber. But yeah, I'm going to be live streaming my reactions, live streaming my comments. You guys can help me come up with how I should comment. Maybe we can do some fun games. I don't know. It's an experiment. It's going to be something really, really interesting. So that's going to be every Tuesday at 7:30 Central Standard Time. And then on top of that, I'm going to be doing live streams after every episode, after the show commentary, where I take the comments from videos and I'm going to respond to those comments. It's going to be at 7:30 Central Standard Time on Tuesdays. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited about it. So that's the Alex O'Connor videos. But yeah, back to the other announcement. After every single podcast that I upload, I'm going to do an after the show commentary where I take the comments from the video. I also will be discussing some of the kind of behind the scenes, some of the interesting takes that maybe weren't discussed in the video, maybe some things that were cut out, all of that. It's going to be a live stream every Sunday after I upload a new video. So this Friday, I'm going to be uploading a video on free will. It's going to be a discussion into the debate of free will. So I'll be doing a after the show commentary that next Sunday. And that's going to be at 4 p.m. every Sunday, preceding a episode. So you can look forward to those. 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sundays after every single episode. And then, like I just said, I am posting a new video this coming Friday. It's going to be a reaction to a debate from the Whatever podcast. The Whatever podcast is kind of controversial, has some interesting takes, but they discussed free will. It was a debate between Xena, who I also had on this podcast. She, had a debate with Jordan Peterson before this. It was between her and Dr. David Patrick Harry, who's another fellow YouTuber and scholar. I just think this video failed to understand the nuance behind this topic. It was also just rough, and part of me, I like Xena. I'm a friend of hers, sort of. She's been on the podcast, and so part of me wants to sort of defend her side a little bit. So I spent about, probably 50 hours researching the topic, and I'm very excited to present the information for all of you to react to. So, but that is it for all the announcements. We have Tuesday live streams, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have after the show commentary live streams happening Sundays after every upload, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, and then a video dropping this Friday. So, thanks guys so much for showing up. This was so much fun. Make sure to like and subscribe and to share this with anyone that you think would find this content really interesting. I had a lot of fun. You guys are rock stars. You guys, made this live stream so much fun. It was so great to be able to do this. It's a bit of an experiment. Feel free to let me know how I can change things in the future. All right. You guys have a wonderful rest of your night. I will see you guys around. Peace.